Hey everybody, welcome back to This Day in History. Yes, I did get a serpentine belt. I just haven't been able to get it put on there. And I just refuse to spend $140 to pay someone to do it. I'll figure it out eventually. At any rate, this is April 28th, 2024. First, I want to take a moment and offer my condolences to the Fountaine family. Today is the memorial service for Gary Fountaine. He was the bass player for the band New Shoes, who were based out of Portland. They had hits like I Can't Wait. They hit the music scene in the mid 80s. I remember them in junior high. But Gary Fountaine was the bass player. His youngest brother is a good friend of mine. I've met Gary a couple times, and he was a pretty cool guy. He passed away of cancer a couple months back. Their oldest brother, Eddie, passed away, I wanted to say 2 years ago. So, my friend Tim and his sister Camilla, they're all that's left. Their parents are gone. They've been gone for years. And all they have is each other now. The two oldest brothers are gone now. And so I just want to extend my heart out to the Fountaine family. And I promised him that I would make an appearance today. And I'm still going to do that. I just double booked myself with other birthday plans and all. But I'm going to keep my word, and I'm going to go see Tim today and offer my condolences for the loss of his brother. So with that said, we're going to get into this day in history, which we're going to start with birthdays. And the first birthday is 1758. The fifth American president, James Monroe, would be born on this day. He was one of our founding fathers, and he was the president who had to deal with the aftermath of the War of 1812. Fast forward to 1926. American author Harper Lee, who would author the book To Kill a Mockingbird, was born on this day. On this day in 1937, Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq, who really fashioned his regime after the Nazi Party. Hitler was a hero of his. He kind of had some hero worship of the man. Tried to emulate him. He would do despicable things he would kill political dissidents, political rivals. He had an issue with the Kurds in the northern territory there, in the northern, North Iraq, and he would bomb them with sarin gas and just murder them because he thought he had a right to do so. In 1990, he would invade Kuwait, and he would be repelled in 1991 by coalition forces. There would be 16 UN resolutions drafted against him that he just ignored over the next 12 years, and enough was enough. They went under the guise of WMD, weapons of mass destruction. Hussein went on to record as to say that he was going to, teach the Americans an all-new meaning to war. The weapons of mass destruction that he had, a lot of people think that he had, we claim that he had nukes. We never said he had nukes. He did have weapons of mass destruction. They were, it was in the form of, chemical warfare, chemical gas, sarin gas, mustard gas, that sort of thing. He wasn't to have it, and he did. Well, he had it convoyed out about 3 days before we invaded. The CIA reported this. The CIA, watched it happen. They couldn't do anything because under mandate, we weren't to do anything for another 3 days. It went to Syria. Now, all you out there who would say that it's bunk, it's whatever, okay, I'm just going to side trail here for a moment. Syria, years later, would start using that sarin gas on its own people. Where did he get that from? Because it is documented that he got those convoys came from Iraq. So the WMDs that we went in that we never found in Iraq were shipped out to Syria before we invaded. Doesn't negate the fact that we went in for legitimate reasons. He just played his hand and played it well and made us look bad in front of the whole international community. At any rate, that's Slimeball's birthday today. And the nice thing is that when he was captured, it was verified that it truly was him. He was tried and convicted by his own people, and then he was summarily executed. So good riddance to bad rubbish. In 1948, Terry Pratchett is a British author. Terry would be born today in 1948. In 1950, comedian, writer, talk show host Jay Leno would be born on this day in 1950. And in 1974, Penelope Cruz would be born. So those are the birthdays. In 2004, CBS would broadcast photo images of Iraqi inmates in Abu Ghraib prison. And the imagery wasn't very flattering. In fact, it caused a ruckus globally in the international community, would raise questions about human rights and, whether there were some human rights violations going on there. In 2003, Apple opens the iTunes store. In 2001, American businessman Dennis Tito, who had more money than he knew what to do with, he partners with the Russians, pays $20 million, and he becomes the first space tourist because he hitched a ride with the Russians on their supply run to the International Space Station. He got to spend about 6 days up there, and he went down in history as the very first space tourist. On this day in 1996, Australia would endure its bloodiest mass shooting. Shooter Martin Bryan, he would kill 35 people. This was in the Port Arthur area of Tasmania. This incident would lead the Australian government to effectively ban all firearms in the country, with a notable exception. Obviously, law enforcement are allowed to have firearms. Ranchers out and, they're allowed to protect their livestock, that sort of thing. But they used a horrific situation to clamp down on some severe gun control. In 1969, Charles de Gaulle would resign as president of France. The interesting thing about de Gaulle was that he was the French president all the way since World War II. He was actually exiled. He stayed in England during the war. He got out of France before the Germans rolled in, and he was deposed. He was recognized as the legitimate leader of France in exile, while the Vichy's the Vichy French set up their government that was very pro-Germany. They're a bunch of German sycophants, really. They had their comeuppance when France was liberated. On this day in 1967, Muhammad Ali would refuse induction into the draft. Say what you will about him. He was a hell of a boxer. He's still one of my favorite boxers of all time. I love the guy. I respect his decision while I don't agree with it. Because my father went to Vietnam. My uncle... My uncle served during Vietnam, although he was never over there. My other uncle was drafted, but he claimed conscientious objector, being a Jehovah's Witness himself, that, he was excused. So, like, I can't condemn Muhammad Ali too much, but, I respect anyone who stands up for their rights, and he did just that. He was Muslim at that time, and as a Muslim, his religious convictions required him to object morally to participating, and this country does give conscientious objectors the right to refuse induction. He was punished for it by the Boxing Commission. He had his title stripped of him. He didn't box for 3 years, which I think is a travesty. This all comes in the height of the civil rights era. So, I mean, it was a bad situation, but that's what happened to him on this day, April 27th, or 28th rather. 1952, after 7 years of Allied occupation, Japan is free to govern itself without having British and Australian and New Zealand and American forces occupying their country. They had been built up economically. They had been built up in their infrastructure. We engaged in a policy of nation building, and because that's what we did. It was the idea was that after we bombed the crap out of them, that we, when the war is all over and peace treaties are signed, then we go in there and we build up their nation, build up their economy, build up their infrastructure, with the idea that we're winning hearts and minds, and we become friends as a result of it. So far, so good. I mean, like, Japan is a trade partner. They are a friendly ally to the United States. Where they got us back was economically speaking, because of their superior products that they produce. We got lazy, and they got smart, and they got us back economically. So, last 1881, on this day in 1881, Billy the Kid would make his escape from prison. If you remember Young Guns 2, where he makes that jailbreak, kills the deputy, shoots the sheriff, I believe that scene is depicting this day in history. So he would escape prison. He allowed himself to be captured because under a promise that if he testified, he would get immunity from the governor, or he'd get a pardon, and the governor reneged. So, historically speaking, he would be killed by Pat Garrett many months later. That has been this day in history for April 28th. Thanks for joining me. Have a very blessed day, and we'll talk to you soon. All right? Take care. Bye.